My name is John and I am 37 years old. 10 years ago, I married Mary, a part-time college professor and yoga instructor, and we have been on a journey together ever since. Mary is a part-time college professor and a yoga instructor. Her work is full of passion and energy, and she always brings laughter and warmth to those around her. I, on the other hand, am an ordinary office worker. In order to provide a stable life for my family, I often invest a lot of time and energy in my work. Nevertheless, Mary never complained about my busyness. She always greets me with a smile and soothes my tiredness with her gentle hands. Our relationship is based on deep trust and understanding. We share the little things in life and face difficulties and challenges together. Even though we occasionally argue over small things, we can always calm down, listen to each other, and find ways to resolve conflicts. Over the past 10 years, we have spent countless unforgettable days together. We traveled and explored the world together. We cooked and tried new dishes. We read and shared our favorite books and stories. Mary's companionship made me so happy and contented that I thought we would spend our lives together. However, who would have thought that behind this peaceful life, there was a shocking secret? The moment I finally discovered the truth, my whole world collapsed. It turned out that my wife, whom I loved and trusted, had betrayed our marriage and had an illicit relationship with another man. This shocking revelation changed the course of my life forever. In the days that followed, I had to face the pain of betrayal head-on, struggling between forgiveness and abandonment. This is the story I want to tell, a story of love, deception, and self-redemption. That quiet night, forever etched in my memory, Mary was temporarily called back to school to deal with some students' papers, and I was home alone. Bored, I opened Mary's laptop by accident. We've always respected each other's privacy and never pried into each other's private emails or social media accounts. But that night, an inexplicable intuition drove me to open Mary's private email. Perhaps it was the comfort of my life that made me uneasy, or the unseen cracks in our marriage that had crept in. When I saw Mary's frequent emails with a man named David, I felt dizzy. Their conversations were intimate and provocative, not the kind of thing you'd expect from an ordinary coworker. As I kept scrolling down, more explicit content came to light. They were talking to each other, going on dates, and even exchanging intimate photos and videos. My hands began to shake, and I could hardly control the mouse. Each email, each picture, was like a sharp knife, piercing my heart. I found it hard to breathe and my chest was heaving violently. Anger, disbelief, humiliation, sadness, all kinds of emotions were screaming in my head, tearing my sanity. I forced myself to calm down and double-check the dates of the emails, the earliest of which dated back 3 months. The earliest email dated back 3 months, when Mary's department had a new young professorial assistant who I assumed was David, and judging by the content of the emails, they had quickly begun an inappropriate relationship. I began to collect evidence in an organized manner. I copied and pasted the explicit emails into an encrypted file and downloaded and saved the intimate photos and videos. I even took a picture of the computer screen with my cell phone, just in case. I didn't know what I was going to do with the evidence, but I realized that my marriage had been irreparably betrayed. By the time Mary got home, I had finished organizing all the evidence. I calmly shut down my computer and remained silent as she greeted me briskly. I felt a wave of nausea. My stomach convulsed, as if an invisible hand was gripping my insides. I couldn't believe that Mary, with whom I had lived for 10 years, would betray our love. The mixture of shock and anger almost tore me in two. One part of me wanted to hiss hysterically and ask Mary why she was doing this to me. The other part of me was overwhelmed with despair and humiliation, as if our marriage was just a cruel joke. I forced myself to remain calm, even though I was on the verge of an emotional breakdown. And Mary seemed to recognize the difference and asked me with concern what was going on. I took a deep breath and slowly said that there was something we needed to talk about. I took out my cell phone and pulled up the heartbreaking photos and emails, showing them to Mary one by one. Her face instantly turned white, and her eyes flashed with horror and guilt. I asked her why she betrayed our marriage and why she destroyed the trust between us. Mary trembled and apologized, tears sliding down her cheeks. She said she had made a mistake, she regretted hurting me, and she begged for my forgiveness. But at that moment, Mary's tears and pleas could not quench the anger in my heart. I only felt endless disappointment and pain, as if a piece of my heart had been plucked out alive. As we stood in a stalemate, tears, yells, and accusations echoed through our once cozy home. Mary tried to explain her relationship with David, claiming that it was just a moment of confusion and misadventure, but every word felt like a knife in my heart, deepening my wounds. But every word she said was like a knife in my heart, deepening the wound. That night, we both completely lost sleep. I lay in bed, replaying the intimate photos and explicit emails in my head. I remembered our wedding vows and the good times we had together, and now, it was all like an illusion, shattered by the merciless reality. I knew that our once beautiful marriage had come to an end. Trust had been completely destroyed and love had become a pile of wreckage. During this sleepless night, I made a decision. I needed to leave the house, leave Mary, and find my own peace and answers. After a sleepless night of thinking, I decided to leave my home with Mary for a while. I needed some time and space to calm down and clear my head. I called my brother and told him about my situation. Without saying a word, he invited me to stay with him for a while. I hurriedly packed some clothes and groceries and walked out the door to Mary's pleading eyes. She took my hand and begged me to stay, saying she would explain everything and make it right. But I couldn't listen to any more explanations, and Mary's touch only made me feel the pain of a burn. On the drive to my brother's house, my cell phone was vibrating with messages from Mary, pleading for forgiveness, expressing love, and promising never to do it again. She said she would do anything for our marriage and begged me to give her a chance to start over. Each message was like salt in my heart, reminding me of my broken trust and the pain of betrayal. Mary's words were once so sweet and beautiful, but now they have become the cruelest irony. I forced myself not to read those messages and put my cell phone on silent mode. When my brother saw how haggard I looked, he gave me a big hug. He didn't ask many questions, but just told me that he would always be there for me, no matter what help I needed. I couldn't thank him enough for his support, but deep down, I realized that this was a difficult situation that I could only face on my own. In the guest room of my brother's house, I tossed and turned. My mind kept flashing back to the moments when Mary and I met, fell in love, and got married. The nervousness of our first date, the tenderness in each other's eyes when we got married, and the sweet moments of every anniversary. These beautiful memories are now bitter and comical, overshadowed by the shadow of betrayal. I remembered Mary's smile and the warmth of her in my arms. A heartbreaking pain swept through my body, and tears welled up uncontrollably. I roared and threw my fists on the pillows, wanting to vent the pent-up feelings in my chest. But no matter how I vent, the wound in my heart is still bloody and painful. During those difficult nights, I asked myself over and over again, is there a future for our marriage? Can I still forgive Mary? Once trust is broken, can it be rebuilt? Each question was like a puzzle that tortured my mind. My brother tried to comfort me and give me ideas. He said that everyone makes mistakes, and the key is to see if Mary is truly repentant. He suggested that I talk to Mary or seek help from marriage counseling. I knew he was thinking of me, but my heart was still in turmoil. In this way, I spent several sleepless nights at my brother's house. During the day, I would receive numerous messages of apology from Mary. At night, I was alone with my inner struggle and confusion. I knew that whether I chose to forgive or divorce, it would be a difficult decision. Before making this decision, I had to find inner peace and answers. After 2 weeks at my brother's house, my anger subsided and was replaced by nostalgia for Mary and our life together. Though the pain of betrayal was still sharp, I began to wonder if I should give our marriage a chance to start over. I decided to return to Mary and I's home with a glimmer of hope to try to reconcile. When I opened the door, Mary jumped into my arms, sobbing uncontrollably. She kept apologizing, saying she would never make the same mistake again, and pleading with me to give her a chance to make amends. We sat down and talked openly. I asked Mary why she had betrayed our marriage and what had happened between her and David. However, whenever I asked these questions, Mary always stammered and gave vague answers. She said she was lonely and confused, and David just happened to be in her life. She said she never really loved David, that it was all a mistake. Mary's answers left me frustrated and confused. I longed to hear the truth, to understand the reasons for the betrayal, but Mary always seemed to be evasive. It made me wonder if she really understood the gravity of her behavior and the hurt I had endured. Nevertheless, Mary offered a series of measures to rebuild my trust in her. She promised to cut off all contact with David immediately, including quitting her current job, to ensure that she would have no further interaction with him. She offered to let me monitor the location of her cell phone and gave me access to all of her social media accounts and email. Mary also suggested that we see a marriage counselor together to learn how to better communicate and deal with our problems. She even suggested a second honeymoon for 2 weeks to rekindle our relationship. I was pleased with Mary's efforts, but deep down, it was clear to me that rebuilding trust would be a long and difficult process, and that Mary's commitment and initiatives were important, but even more critical was her ability to truly understand and make amends for her mistakes, rather than just superficially remedying them. I told Mary that I was willing to give our marriage a chance to start over, but only if she was completely honest with me and did not hide anything. We need to work together, through open communication and mutual understanding, to be able to repair the broken trust. Over the next few days, we began trying to rebuild our relationship. I monitored Mary's every move, and she did her best to prove her loyalty to me. We went to a marriage counselor together to learn how to better listen to each other and express our feelings. However, despite our efforts, the shadow of betrayal still hangs over our lives. Whenever I saw Mary's cell phone light up or heard her talking about a male colleague at work, I felt a pang of unease. I began to wonder if our marriage could really go back to the way it was and if trust could really be rebuilt. In spite of Mary's efforts, my deep-seated unease and skepticism grew stronger and stronger. One day, I checked Mary's email again to make sure she had really cut off all contact with David. However, when I opened her spam folder, I found more evidence of their illicit relationship. Most of the emails were sent after Mary had promised to reform and included David's thoughts about Mary, memories of their relationship, and even suggestive photos. When I saw these, I felt angry and hurt. It turned out that while Mary swore that she would never contact David again, they were secretly keeping up this dirty business. I began to dig deeper into David's personal and professional life. Through search engines and social media, I discovered that he was also a married man with a lovely wife and a young child. Looking at his happy family life on social media, I felt angry and resentful. How can he enjoy the warmth of his family while seducing other people's wives and destroying their marriages? A plan of revenge was taking shape in my mind. I decided to expose David's true colors and give him a taste of betrayal and humiliation. I began to plan my revenge carefully, gathering all the evidence that could prove their illicit relationship. I copied all of Mary's emails, chat logs, and even intimate photos from her computer and saved them in an encrypted folder. I also installed tracking software on Mary's cell phone to record all her calls, text messages, and movements. At the same time, I kept a close eye on David's social media feeds, trying to find more clues. To carry out my plan of revenge, I created an anonymous email account. I planned to send an anonymous email to David's students, co-workers, and his wife with all the evidence of their illicit relationship. I wanted everyone to know what a hypocrite and unfaithful hypocrite David was. I wrote a carefully crafted exposé describing David and Mary's sordid affair in the most explicit and humiliating terms. I even included screenshots of their most intimate photos and chats as hard evidence of his guilt. I checked the content of the email and the list of recipients to make sure there were no mistakes. Then, I took a deep breath and clicked the send button without hesitation. At that very moment, I felt a surge of vengeance throughout my body, as if the burden that had been weighing on my heart for so long had finally been released. I knew that this email would completely destroy David's life and reputation. He would lose his job, his family, all his dignity, and that's what he deserves. He had dishonored my marriage, betrayed my trust, and now it was time to make him pay. After the anonymous email was sent, I watched coldly as David's life fell apart through his own mistakes. He was suspended from school and his wife filed for divorce. Seeing his tragic end finally calmed my anger a little, but at the same time, I realized that my marriage with Mary had reached a point of no return. Mary's betrayal was the first thing that happened, and even though she pleaded for forgiveness and promised to change, I couldn't live with her anymore. Whenever I see her, I can't help but see images of her and David in my mind's eye. The trust between us has been completely broken and can never be repaired. I decided to ask Mary for a divorce immediately. As I expected, she broke down and cried, begging me to give her another chance. But I had already made up my mind and would not budge. The damage of betrayal had been done, and no promise or compensation could erase the scar. I hired a highly respected divorce attorney to handle all legal matters. We agreed to divide our joint assets equally, including a joint savings account valued at $120,000, the family home valued at $850,000, and a rental apartment valued at $320,000, which will be sold and the proceeds divided equally between the two of us. These assets will be sold and the proceeds will be divided equally between the two of us. The divorce process was long and difficult, full of emotional pain and legal complications. However, my attorney helped me through this process with professionalism and efficiency. After months of negotiations and paperwork, our divorce was finally finalized. On the day I signed the divorce papers, I was overcome with a mixture of relief and sadness. Relief that I could finally say goodbye to this painful past, and sadness that my love and dreams had been shattered. But I realized that in order to heal my wounds and make a fresh start, I had to let go of the past and learn to face my future life alone. The moment I walked out of the courthouse doors, I realized that my marriage to Mary, an existence that had once been the center of my life, was now completely over. The post-divorce years have not been easy. I found myself often feeling lost, ashamed, and insecure. After years of marriage, I had become accustomed to having someone with me, and now suddenly I had to face everything alone, and I felt overwhelmed. I was also deeply traumatized by Mary's betrayal, and I often wondered if it was my own shortcomings that had led to the tragedy. On the advice of a friend, I started to seek psychotherapy. By talking to a professional psychologist, I gradually realized that Mary's infidelity was not my fault. I should not punish myself for other people's mistakes. The therapy helped me regain my self-confidence, learn to forgive myself, and let go of my past hurts. I reconnected with some old friends, those I had alienated during my marriage. Their support and companionship was a great comfort. We played basketball, fished, went for drives, and were just as carefree as we were when we were young. These simple pleasures made me feel good about life again. Work has also become a great source of comfort for me. I devoted myself to my career, not only as a distraction, but also to prove my worth. My efforts were rewarded with promotions and greater responsibilities. The sense of fulfillment at work helped me to rediscover my identity and purpose in life. The experience of divorce also made me reflect on my lifestyle. I realized that in the past, I was too concerned about the opinions of others and neglected my own inner needs. As a result, I began to learn about self-care and became more mindful of my physical and mental health. I learned to meditate, started exercising regularly, and developed new hobbies such as reading and gardening. I was surprised to find that life could be so colorful. Time is like a good medicine, slowly healing my inner wounds. With the rebuilding of my self-identity, I became stronger and more independent than ever before. I am no longer the victim of betrayal, but a man who has been reborn by his own strength. As I look back on this journey of self-discovery after my divorce, I realize that life's low points are actually opportunities for growth. It was the misfortune of my marriage that gave me the opportunity to re-examine myself, explore my inner potential, and become a better version of myself. I'm sharing this story in the hopes that it will inspire those of you who are going through a difficult time of betrayal or divorce. Every blow that life gives us is an opportunity for a breakthrough. As long as we have the courage to face the pain, learn to care for ourselves, and grow, we will be able to get out of the haze and embrace a brighter future. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.